Hello everyone, in this video I will introduce turnk8s. Turnk8s is a turnkey Kubernetes deployment tool implemented by infraheads. It's based on Talos Linux and Proxmox as well as Netris products. Netris is an on-prem network management tool. It makes managing on-prem networks uh, even easier than it's done, for example, using AWS Web Console. So you can have the same convenience with Netris. So let's jump right to the usage of the turnk8s. But before doing that on your side, you for sure need to read this before using turnk8s because it requires a setup in your um, infrastructure. You can't use this repository without forking it. And there are some details about that here, but I will tell more during this video. So we follow the GitOps approach of managing our Kubernetes clusters. Therefore, all the clusters we have should be represented in this config YAML file. As you can see, I already have one cluster deployed, and we can see that cluster nodes, for example, here in Proxmox dashboard, this is the worker node, this is the control plane node, this is a 2-machine cluster. So I want to add another one, and to do so, I will just copy the definition of the cluster called internal, and I will call it, and I will call it demo YouTube. Let's commit. There are some data already. Let's create a PR for this video. I will use my power of merging the PR to the main branch. And as I do that, GitHub action is starting, which makes sure that the infrastructure I have, my Kubernetes cluster specifically, are synchronized with this definition. So as we can see, I already have one cluster, as I said, and we are now creating another one. So before the pipeline execution is complete, let's move to the first article about turnk8s, which is on Medium, and see what do we have here to get a better understanding. First thing is the user flow. So we already did the first step. We pushed the updated config YAML file, and GitHub triggered a workflow which runs Terraform mainly. What will happen next? Virtual machines are going to be provisioned with Proxmox provider. Then, as those virtual machines are running using Talos Linux ISO images, we will have a set of Talos virtual machines, and then Talos provider will be used to deploy a cluster on these VMs. As the cluster deployment is done, we create a repository containing service manifest files, Kubernetes manifest files. We have there just one sample service, and this repository is also being created with Terraform. So when Talos is ready, ArgoCD and Netris operators are being deployed on the Kubernetes cluster, and ArgoCD is already configured to read from service manifest repository. It will pull the service manifests. It will deploy the service on the newly created Kubernetes cluster, and then Netris operator will see that we have a new service which has type of load balancer, and it will communicate with the Netris controller and Netris softgate to provision a load balancer. And then the user will be able to see to access the service using the load balancer IP. So the traffic will go to the Netris softgate and then to the specific pods of the service. So then the user obviously can remove this manifest. ArgoCD will remove the service and push manifest of uh, meaningful valid services that can be QA environment of some service, or maybe some playground and stuff like that. So GitOps approach is applied in this specific area as well. As we said, in this repository, in turnk8s repository, we have config YAML, which represents the Kubernetes cluster. And in newly created repository, we will have the manifest to be deployed on the Kubernetes cluster. And again, every Kubernetes cluster needs to have its own and exclusive manifest repository. We believe that's the right way of managing the Kubernetes and services on the Kubernetes. We don't recommend using a single ArgoCD deployment to deploy on multiple clusters, or single ArgoCD deployment to read from many repositories. Uh, there are still valid use cases to read from multiple repositories, but based on our experience, deploying on using single ArgoCD to deploy multiple clusters always causes problems. So this is the high level user workflow and basically high level explanation on how the things are working, what's the sequence of the stages. Then we have the first image of our own infraheads own infrastructure, where we were developing all the turnk8s components. So we will write very in detail articles on our technical decisions, and we will explain all the bits of this infrastructure, how it works, how, for example, Netris softgate is also used as a DHCP server for Talos internal network, and Netgear router is used as a DHCP server for the management network, and much more. Stay tuned and make sure that you follow us on Medium, and we will link the new articles to the old ones, so you will not get lost. And also find the link to the GitHub repository and the Medium page in the description of this video. Let's go to our action and see what's going on. Okay, we already should have the VMs provisioned. As we can see, that's the case, and we can see the Talos operating system console logs. We see that the node is already healthy. It has an IP address, and in a couple of minutes it will be in ready state. So let's wait for a little bit more. Before it happens, we can see that there are some services represented here in the Netris controller dashboard, because we already have a cluster, and that cluster has a sample service which is called infra-logo service in our case, deployed on that cluster. What's going to happen next is that as the new cluster is deployed, we are going to have 3 more load balancers here. And by the way, one of those is for ArgoCD web interface. So we saved a little bit of time on this, and we will come back and see that the newly created cluster also has its load balancers created here. Okay, our cluster is already up and running. It takes really small amount of time compared to anything else we've seen in terms of Kubernetes cluster creation. And Talos folks have a video comparing the cluster creation on EKS and on-prem environment in a very fair setup. You can actually we'll find a link that in the video description as well, so that you can compare that with EKS. So we have the cluster up and running. The last stage is always in our workflow. It's always the Netris, most probably we will need a couple of more minutes until the ArgoCD is being deployed, and ArgoCD deploys the sample service, and then Netris creates a load balancer. Before that happens, let's go back to the README file of the turnk8s. Here it says that you need to fork the cluster, and you need to have repository level environmental variables configured for the workflow to work. You can find the details here, and some links for your convenience are added to the document so that you can follow the Netris controller installation process, proxmox token generation, and you also will need to use Terraform Cloud, as we use that to store the Terraform state in the Terraform Cloud. We will write a lot of in-detail articles on this, so please follow us and subscribe, hit all the ring buttons and all that stuff, so that to make sure that you are not missing any information. So, and we have it added here. Make sure that your GitHub token has the repository creation privilege. This is needed for creation of this repository here. So that's the thing. And let's see what else I can share with you before we jump to the, I guess, nothing. Yeah. And here we see, just at the moment we switch to this tab, the new services had been created, new load balancers have been created in the Netris controller dashboard, and that concludes this user flow. What we can do next is just pushing more Kubernetes service manifests to this repository to get more load balancers on Netris and etc. But that's not it. When the workflow is done, we generate summary for your convenience, where we attach the Kubernetes configuration, Kubernetes kube control configurations files. You need to download this configuration files and add those to your home kube config file to see a new context in your Kubernetes control configuration. And that's not it as well. We also link the service manifest repository, which is this one here, so that you can conveniently jump to your service manifests. Here is the example. We have this logo service, and here we can see the manifest for that logo service. So this is the service, and because the type is load balancer, Netris operator created a load balancer. So this is it. We have tons of more things to implement, specifically DNS cert manager and other stuff. If you want to become a contributor, write a private message to us on LinkedIn, or find the information on our infraheads.com website. We also have a chat. You can write to InfraChat. So this is it for now. Stay tuned for more information and more features on turnk8s. Thank you.